Hey everyone, and welcome to your Infringement Friday. Hope you guys have had a great week, and I hope that you guys have a great weekend of soccer lined up, football lined up for you guys to referee and just get all that much better. I want to lead off Infringement Friday with a little bit of a disclaimer, right? There's going to be some videos coming out that maybe I'll just post to YouTube. I'm maybe not in the group or something like that, where I'm going to be speaking more to the fans and more to the supporters and the coaches and the players and so forth, and kind of talking from a very base level educational point of view on the laws, breaking down like those more complex laws into easier to understand language, because I think sometimes we get sucked into our legalese, if you will. The text of the laws say XYZ kind of a thing, and I think that there's times when we don't parse it well and we don't look at it in a fashion that maybe the objective supporter starts to. So I'm going to play around with some of that kind of stuff and see what it's all about, and see if there's not maybe some opportunity to start looking at some other avenues for me to kind of educate, and not necessarily from a referee's point of view, but from what a fan might observe and so forth. And I know that we're all fans. We love this game. That's the reason we're here, right? But we have an interest that has driven us to be involved in the match, to be involved in the game as a whole, and so forth. And I think that there's maybe some who are newer, right? They have a kid playing. They are new to the sport. A friend introduced them and so forth. But they have these questions on these laws and all this other stuff, right? I think there's an opportunity there. And with the new referee abuse policy out now, you have this punitive measure, right, where they have, sometimes these people don't know what is appropriate, and that's an odd thing to say, but the other side is that they need to be educated on the laws of the game so that they can have the amount of understanding and so forth in order to, be a better participant in this beautiful game that we all love, right? So look for that on YouTube eventually, and so there's going to be some stuff, that kind of switches and changes and so forth. One of my segments might have to drop in order for that to happen, but we'll see on that. So for today's Infringement Friday, we're going to look at the James Tarkowski Alexis McAllister challenge, and I want to do it in such a fashion where we start to learn where we could have gotten it right in the first place, because you and me have one opportunity. That's it. We don't have VAR. We don't have anything else. I'll talk a little bit about why I think VAR didn't intervene, but either way, I think the biggest piece to this is and the biggest takeaway is why it was wrong on the field, and what we can do as referees to learn from this positioning and learn from this decision and try and get it to be as correct as possible. So let's watch I know you guys probably have all seen it, but let's watch it, and then I'll go through kind of a couple of things that I think we see here in order to kind of maybe get a little bit better. Let's have a look.
Lee, should this be upgraded to red?
Well, put it this way, he knows what he's doing,
So we've seen it. You can kind of reverse back a little bit if you want to watch it again. For me, the announcer's correct. He knows what he's doing. It's a 50-50 ball, and McAllister is just trying to block the clearance, and then Tarkowski, just the follow through, goes on in. He's trying to put it out wide to another Everton player to make the attack and so forth, right? Now, the one thing that I will say here is let's look at the referee. Where's the referee? Because we see him in the background here. And now, before this, let me caveat this, because this ball has come into the penalty area, it's come back out, and then this was miscontrolled, and it sort of created this 50-50 challenge where both players are going to be coming together now. And when I saw it live, I read it. I knew I anticipated that these two players were going to come together. And I think from a referee's perspective, when you have that game understanding, you can give yourself the opportunity to get, angle over distance, for example, where you're able to see where that contact is potentially going to be, right? So here you see the referee, he's anticipating, in my opinion, he's anticipating the next phase of play, which is going to send the ball downfield. Here, though, what's the angle that's going to put him best at to see this contact? It's right here, right? There it is, right there. I think that if he moves, instead of moving kind of this way into this area, he comes back this way, right? And now it's counterintuitive from the sense of that's not typically how we anticipate playing and moving and so forth. And he sees enough of the challenge to be able to issue a caution as a reckless challenge. And that to me says that he knows something has happened, but that the true nature of the contact isn't quite available to him because he's moved this way. He has to look through McAllister, through his legs, and I think there's actually a couple other players over here too that are sort of in his way in order to see the true nature of the contact of the challenge. So when he sees it, it's clear that there's some contact to him. And actually, I don't think there's anybody in the way here. I think he has a pretty straight shot of it. He's able to see the play, see the clearance. He sees the contact, and then he's got everyone going haywire. I feel bad for Sam Barrett. He's the referee here, relatively new referee. I don't know when he was promoted to the Premier League. And then we have Paul Tierney on VAR. For me, it's just the natural phase of play and the positioning that he takes that doesn't give him all the information to get it right in the moment. For me, as I'm refereeing, yes, we always want to anticipate the next phase of play, but at the same time, the more important thing is also to see where potential issues are going to arise. And that's where this type of play, where there's two players coming at the ball, it's clear that not one has it, or that it's kind of in no man's land, so to speak here, and there's potentially going to be a collision or a contact of some type. For me, I try to get to an angle where I can see the space between these players and I can have a better understanding of the nature of that contact. It's nowhere near 100%. You can't always do it. But in this case, the anticipation of the contact, I think, has to have the referee moving in a slightly different direction. That doesn't necessarily mean that he can't still be anticipating the phase of play or the next phase of play, but means that he's able to still get back and go and still kind of get on his horse, so to speak, and move into a position where he can do that. Additionally, referees can't be everywhere at once. So in the immediate concern is these two players coming together. The secondary concern is the next phase of play. There's no right or wrong answer here. There's no way to know exactly what's going to happen. But I think I think his positioning plays into it. I also think the fact that it's about 10 minutes into the game. I think that does play into it, where we decide, okay, he's contact him. He's played the ball first. The contact wasn't that bad. It's going to be a caution, right? I could pull up the grid, but you're going to have the high intensity. You're going to have the studs on. You're going to have the straight leg into him, right? Like that leg, that knee is locked. I mean, it's high contact above the ankle, studs, force, intensity, everything. The chart's going to be solid blue, right? You only have one mitigation. He played the ball. He played the ball first. That's the end of it, right? It ticks every box for a red card challenge. But now, why didn't it get reviewed and why didn't it go to VAR? I think that's a system answer. I think the system is sort of broken in that capacity, where Sam Barrett has issued the caution. Is it objectively clear and obviously wrong? I think to everybody kind of the Monday after or the following day, the pundits and so forth. Yeah, it's easy for all of us to say that this was inherently wrong on the day. But is it easy for Paul Tierney, who is also kind of sitting in the back of his head saying, the bar for VAR intervention is quite high. And the fact that Sam Barrett has seen it, has issued a caution, maybe Paul Tierney kind of hears what he's saying. I would love to hear what the VAR audio comes out to, and where it comes to, right? Like, what did Sam Barrett say that he saw? Did he see glancing contact? Did he see the studs at all? Did he say, oh, he's followed through and gone into him, and I don't think it's that bad? Who knows? It'll be interesting to hear when that comes out. But Paul Tierney, knowing the high level, the high bar for VAR, and knowing the controversies around many of those refereeing decisions, where between Michael Oliver's call to send off Miles Lewis Skelly that eventually was overturned and was supported by VAR. In this case, VAR didn't want to re-referee the situation, even though the PGMOL have come out and said it was a mistake. So how do they fix the system? I frankly don't know. I think it's a problem on two fronts. I think it's we need to clear up this definition of clear and obvious error. And the other thing is, I think we need to get off the referees' backs just a little bit. And I don't think that's going to happen from a fan and supporter perspective, because there's this connotation that they need to get these decisions correct. And while I agree with that in principle, the way to do it isn't necessarily to be jumping up and down on Paul Tierney or on Sam Barrett for that matter, because they viewed it subjectively differently, right? Whereas pundits, you and me, we have the camera angle, we have our consideration sheets where we can tick things off and so forth. They don't have those, and frankly, I think there's a lot of reasons for a lot of referees to be gun shy, especially in England right now, because they give the red card, they get slated. They don't give the red card, they get slated. Unfortunately, right now, there's just not a lot of winning for referees in that particular league right now. And that is something that either the decisions have to get more consistent and the system has to adapt, or fans have to kind of give some breathing room to say, okay, we get it, we understand. I also think from an educational piece, like I was talking to at the beginning of this video, I think there's also a fundamental misunderstanding of how referees do what they do. And maybe there's an opportunity to assist and help with that. Remains to be seen. But either way, as I said, the PGMOL have said that this was an error. They've come out and just immediately admitted to that. So it'll be interesting to hear what the VAR audio said, what Sam Barrett said says that he saw, and things of that nature, because the things we only get better when we acknowledge the mistakes and when we acknowledge kind of the things that we need to do in order to continue moving forward. And I think that's what the PGMOL just did. So I give them a lot of credit for that. At the same time, though, let's enact some changes or start brainstorming some changes so that when it comes to VAR and intervention and getting decisions right, one, we get them right on the field in the first try, or two, we have a flexibility to be able to say, this is what it is and this is how it should go and so forth. So it remains to be seen on how that should all come down. But that is your Infringement Friday. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Think about how you would fix not fix, but how would you have gotten this one right? Easy to say kind of in hindsight, but think about how you would, what you could look at in potentially changing in terms of movement, in terms of play, and just overall mindset and philosophy where you might be able to have a better chance at seeing this. The one thing I also didn't talk about here is the area of the field that it happens in, right? He doesn't have an AR. His fourth official is not a credible assistant here. So it's literally just him. And he's in a position where he's got to look through players to get to that decision. How do we get that decision right? How do we move forward with it, right? And how do we learn from what the PGMOL have said is a mistake? Let me know what you think of this situation. Kind of work through the considerations if you need to. And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. In the meantime, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy all the games that you guys have. And I look forward to seeing you guys for your Motivation Monday. Till then, have a good one.